This particular principle can absolutely change your life. Anytime you're in the middle of an unknown circumstance where you're not sure how it's going to work out and you're feeling the anxiety because your imagination is giving you all kinds of worst case scenarios. You've been dating somebody and things are going good, and then he kind of pulls back or goes silent for a little while, and your mind starts racing of, oh my God, what did I do? What if this doesn't work out? Oh, I'm going to go back. And you start to feel that discouragement or that fear or that anxiety. Let's say you lose your job and you're not sure where your next job is going to come from. And you've got this anxiety of how it's going to work out, and your mind starts painting pictures of losing your place or not being able to pay your mortgage or whatever the case is. Or maybe you get a health diagnosis and the doctors are telling you one thing and you're not sure what the outcome is going to be, and your mind starts going down a really dark road. What you can do in these moments, this principle will change everything. When I was growing up, my mom taught us that we have an internal pause button, that you can actually pause the anxiety, you can pause the panic, and you can actually call forth the kind of result that you want. Now, my mom first taught me this principle as I was growing up. And she would tell us as kids, she goes, Matt, you know that you have an internal pause button where you can push pause on the panic or the anxiety and then actually give yourself a greater chance of creating what it is that you want. And I'm like, what do you mean I have a pause button? Where is this button and how do I press it when I'm in panic? And she told us the story of where she learned this, that she had gone to this particular minister, see this minister speak this big seminar. And he was talking about the ability that we know that you attract what you focus on, that whatever the energy you're sending out, that's what you attract more of. And so if you're in a really fear-based, discouraged state of everything's falling apart, that's what you're going to get more of. But if you're in a place of there's opportunity here, there can be good in this, that's what you'll attract more of. And so he had challenged everybody in the audience that the next time something seemingly bad happens, to recognize that everything that operates, that Spirit and God is operating for you, not against you. And so every circumstance, even if it seems really bad, has the seed of an equal or greater benefit. There's the seed of some good in that, but you've got to pause the panic long enough to find the seed of good and then plant it and see it grow. And so he said, next time something bad happens, hit your internal pause button. In other words, say, I'm going to pause the panic and then schedule it. I will panic on Friday. Today, I'm not going to panic, and I'm going to wait and see because I know there must be some good in this. So I'll panic on Friday. 2 days later, my dad, so Sunday, Tuesday, my dad comes home and says he lost his job. And the first feeling that both my parents had was fear. Like we didn't have a lot of money. How are they going to pay for food? How are we going to pay the rent? And also my mom had a dream of going back to school to get her next degree. And she had just gotten the pamphlet. She was just about to enroll. And she was like, now I'm going to not be able to go back to school. And there was all this panic. And so there was all this fear about not being able to live her dream, not being able to even pay the rent or have food money. And so she then paused herself and said, wait a minute. We just went to this service where the minister said, anytime something seems really bad, there is the seed of an equal or greater benefit inside of it. And so let's pause the panic and wait to see if there could be some good in this. And so she said, okay, I'm going to panic on Friday. She turned to my dad and said, if nothing good comes about this, let's panic on Friday. And at that point, we'll worry about money for food, money for rent. But in the meantime, let's stay open that there could be something even better. And so they began to dream up what would be even better. And he's like, well, I lost my job, so a job that paid better would be even better. And they started to put images to those, and they started to get in love with that idea of, okay, there could be something even better still. Within 3 days, my dad found a better job that was higher paying, that was closer to where we live, so close that he could actually ride his bike to work, which he loved to do. The hours were better. He was able to come home earlier and play with us kids. My parents didn't have to suffer the way they would normally have suffered in panic and worry during those 3 days until he got that job, because he got it right before they had scheduled their panic on Friday. I think it was like Thursday night it came in. She was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And so my mom always taught us that as kids, to push your internal pause button when something seemingly bad happens. Maybe you get bad news. Pause. You don't have to panic, and hold the vision of whatever good you can dream up might come out of this. When my wife was pregnant with our second daughter, we went into the ultrasound. And as the doctor was doing the ultrasound, he's like, uh-oh, you never want to hear that during an ultrasound. And the doctor was like, well, I think there might be something going on with her kidneys. Looks like there might be a hole in her kidneys. I was like, oh, geez. And she was like, yeah, sometimes these heal themselves. Sometimes we have to do surgery after she's born. But let's just keep an eye on it. So my wife and I are driving home after that ultrasound with fear rocketing through our bodies that our daughter has a hole in her kidneys. My wife is like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And of course, there's nothing we can do at that moment other than push the pause button. And so I told my wife the story of my mom and the pause button principle. And I said, there's nothing we can do about this right now. So let's not worry. Let's pause. Let's schedule our panic for the next ultrasound. That at the next ultrasound, if things get worse, then we can panic and then we can go into reassessing how we're going to be and how we're going to create and navigate from there. But in the time being, let's imagine that our daughter's kidneys are whole, that she's healthy, that everything is aligned, and we have a beautiful, healthy baby girl when she is born. So my wife and I began to visualize that. We imagined that. And we didn't just imagine it in our minds. We allowed our whole body to feel what it feels like to hold a beautiful, healthy baby girl and have the ultrasound. The doctor says, oh, wow, everything's great, and how we're going to feel in that moment. 2 weeks later, we go back for our ultrasound. The doctor's doing the ultrasound, and she was like, oh, good. I'm glad to see this. And I said, what are you seeing? And she goes, oh, the kidney healed itself back up. And this happens sometimes. So, okay, we're good to go. And my wife and I, driving home that day, looked at each other, smiled at each other, and we were so grateful for the pause button principle. Because even if we had gotten that news, let's say that none of our visualizations, none of that energy actually affected anything health-wise, we would have still suffered during those 2 weeks. Needlessly. So our own experience was way better, let alone what I believe is that energy does create and co-create your world. So my challenge to you is the next time you're right in the middle of something that possibly seems like a big challenge or seems like a big rejection or seems like something you would prefer to not be happening and the outcome hasn't concretized yet. The outcome hasn't manifested yet. There's still an opportunity to create something, and maybe you're in that moment right now. Take a deep breath. Push the pause button and know deep down that life is happening for you. And inside this challenge, there is the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Something amazing is seeking to blossom in your life right now. Schedule your panic for some time later so that you can give yourself breathing room to be creative, to find the seed of good, to plant that, and watch what Spirit is bringing you to bless your life. So I hope this serves you. I hope you use this panic button. I'd love to hear from you. What are the ways in which maybe you've done this in your life that have mattered to you? Go ahead and post that in the comment section below. Here's to you and you living a life you love. Feel a big hug from me. I'll see you soon.